The light in Queens always seems tired, as if even the sun has grown weary of the shouting that leaks from the bunker house. In that dim, ordinary glow sits Archie Bunker Hat, tilted hands trembling slightly as he counts the change in his pocket. 11 cents. That used to buy bread once upon a time when the world was younger, when men had uniforms and certainty, when every penny was proof of pride. Now the bread costs 50, and even breathing feels like debt. The supermarket hums with fluorescent indifference. Shelves tower like monuments to inflation. Edith trails behind him, sweet apologetic, trying to read the prices, while Archie argues with history itself. The country's in trouble. Every time there's an outbreak of peace, he mutters, squeezing loaves the way an old soldier tests the strength of a rifle. The war is long gone, yet in his mind, 1942 never ended. It was the last time America made sense, the last time he did. Around them, the world speaks a new language. Barcodes, coupons, women at cash registers who answer without fear. When a young clerk taps the wrong key, Archie explodes not out of malice, but out of disbelief that anyone under 40 could hold power over him. Even his jokes about gallstones sound like protests against mortality. By the time he reaches the checkout, he is already rehearsing a speech for no one. Everybody pulled his weight back then. The bag of beans thuds onto the counter, the sound of pride landing heavy. Unemployment hangs over him like the smell of canned soup. When his daughter Gloria brings news of a job interview, hope flickers like a stubborn bulb. He dresses in his best shirt, the one with memories of better paychecks, and walks into a new America ruled by paperwork and politeness. The hiring officer is not a man, but a woman miss. Maloney efficient, sharp-eyed, the kind of professional that Archie's generation never learned to address. His competitor Frank Edwards waits in the lobby, dignified, educated 50-ish, his tie a remnant of dignity. Two men equally obsolete sitting side by side as the system flips through their resumes. Frank admits he's been out of work for 3 years. Archie jokes that he barely finished high school. When the woman calls his name, he straightens, suddenly boyish. Inside, the interview turns surreal. Maloney explains that the best janitor is a man lacking in skill and knowledge. Archie grins awkwardly. It's the first job description he fits perfectly. Yet triumph curdles when he learns Frank has been rejected for being overqualified. In that bureaucratic logic, failure becomes virtue. Archie takes the position, but victory feels hollow. Out in the hallway, Frank shakes his hand with fragile grace. Minutes later, a scream echoes through the window. Frank stands on the ledge, the city wind clawing his coat. The office freezes. Archie lunges to the window, his own fear disguised as anger. Don't do nothing sudden, he pleads. But Frank's despair has momentum. Years of rejection have carried him there. The scene becomes theater, tragic and comic, absurd and sacred. Down on the street, a crowd chants jump while Archie leans out into the empty air, shouting about grandsons, about God, about the stupidity of quitting before payday. His words tumble out like prayers rewritten by a blue-collar poet. A grandfather's got to teach the kid how to whistle on a blade of grass. He cries as if memory itself could save the man. Frank hesitates, and in that pause, the two share a mirror of loneliness. Both are terrified of the same thing, not death, but uselessness. When Archie's gallbladder flares, pain pulls him back from the window. Absurdity intrudes again, reminding everyone that mortality can also be ridiculous. Somehow, through pleading an accident, Frank steps back inside. Archie's arms wrap around him, clumsy, desperate human. That night, the hero lies in bed beside Edith. She calls him brave. He calls himself lucky. Their intimacy flickers between comedy and tenderness. He jokes that his pudence is returning, that saving a life has restored his manhood. But the joke turns into a groan. The pain in his side grows sharper. Game called on account of pain, he whispers, and the audience laughs, though the laughter feels uneasy. The next morning, he's in the hospital, stripped of control, surrounded by strangers who speak in technical language and kindness. The hospital is another world, sterile, hierarchical, ruled by women and immigrants. The nurse who greets him speaks with an island accent and the authority of experience. Archie's attempt to reassert masculinity collapses when she orders him to turn over for an injection. He bargains, cracks jokes, tries to remind her that he fought in the war, but nothing shields him from the humiliation of dependence. Even his complaints about normal American operations fall flat when she tells him she'll shave him with eyes closed so he won't feel ashamed. It's absurd and yet tender, a small mercy offered to a man terrified of exposure. Edith hovers, anxious, her voice a lullaby of reassurance. Between the beeping machines and the scent of disinfectant, they have their most honest conversation in years. Archie instructs her on what to do if I don't come back from under the knife, where to find the hidden money, what coffin to choose, how to dress his body. Beneath the grotesque details lies a confession of love he can't pronounce. He worries their grandson will forget him, so he tells Edith to buy the boy a gift each year from me from under the ground. The camera could linger on her eyes, filled with tears that refuse to fall. For once, she doesn't interrupt his nonsense. She lets him believe his control will outlast him. Then the absurdity returns. The doctors delay surgery for lack of compatible blood. The volunteer donor arrives, Dr. Thatcher, a black woman. Archie panicked mutters about hemoglobins, mixing colors as if science could threaten identity. The staff exchanges weary smiles. They've seen this fear before. Dr. Thatcher replies calmly, "Her blood is red." In that simple statement lies the entire moral thesis of All in the Family. When they wheel him toward the operating room, his resistance collapses into silence. Weeks later, recovery brings him home. But the world outside has shifted again. His old nemesis, Pinky Peterson, is back playing pranks that belong to a younger, meaner age. A fake mongoose, a cardboard box, a scream, Archie's fear becomes everyone's entertainment. His dignity shredded, he vows revenge, and fate delivers an accomplice, Beverly LaSalle, the flamboyant female impersonator he once rescued, with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Beverly's return introduces a gentler mirror for Archie, someone who embodies courage in disguise. When she invites the Bunkers to dinner, Archie hatches a cruel plan to set her up as bait for Pinky, letting the macho prankster fall for her. The dinner sequence unfolds like tragic opera disguised as sitcom. The restaurant glows with cheap red light laughter, swelling like background music. Beverly in full glamour radiates kindness and vulnerability. Pinky, oblivious, becomes genuinely enchanted. Across the table, Archie can barely contain his glee, nudging Edith, waiting for the grand reveal. But as the evening progresses, the laughter turns inward. Beverly speaks with grace, Pinky with sincerity, and suddenly the joke no longer feels funny. When the truth emerges, when wigs come off and identities shatter, embarrassment floods the room like spilled wine. Pinky's girlfriend storms in, the waiter freezes, and Beverly stands in the ruins of someone else's amusement. Archie still laughs triumphant until he sees her face, the hurt, the restraint, the quiet dignity of someone used to surviving mockery. The camera would linger there long enough for the audience to stop laughing. Back home, Edith's disapproval slices deeper than any sermon. "That was a terrible thing to do," she says softly. Archie insists he meant no harm, that it was just a joke, but his voice trembles. Beneath the bluster, shame seeps through. He has confused victory with cruelty, humor with power. In that moment, he becomes the embodiment of a culture losing its innocence, a generation realizing, too late, that laughter can wound. Morning light filters through the thin curtains of the bunker house, cutting pale stripes across the cluttered living room. The laughter from the night before has evaporated, leaving only dust motes and silence. Archie sits in his chair, the same throne that has witnessed every one of his small wars against progress, against poverty, against the invisible tide of time. He holds the morning paper, but doesn't read it. The headlines speak of things he no longer understands: inflation reports, oil crises, changing gender roles, protests at universities. He feels surrounded by words that don't include him. Edith hums softly in the kitchen, the sound of a woman who has long learned how to build peace from noise. The telephone rings and the sound feels foreign in the stillness. It's Gloria, breathless, calling with news that makes no sense to him at first. Ma saved someone's life today. The sentence hovers in the air like a bird that refuses to land. Edith, the one who forgets where she put her glasses, the one who apologizes to inanimate objects, the one who has never thought of herself as anything but ordinary, a hero. He chuckles at first, a reflex of disbelief, until she walks in cheeks, flushed hands trembling. She tells the story slowly, a man at the Sunshine home collapsing mid-celebration. The panic of the room, her body moving on instinct, 2 fingers pressed to the chest, breath after breath, until life returned. The others call it bravery. Edith calls it luck. Archie doesn't know what to call it. What unsettles him is not her courage, but the world's recognition of it. Within hours, a TV news crew calls, led by the poised reporter Kate Corman, a woman whose confidence slices through his living room air like a scalpel. Citizen of the Week, she says, as if reading from scripture. Archie bristles instantly, not because Edith doesn't deserve it, but because he feels erased by her spotlight. In the bunker mythology, he is the talker, the center, the opinion. Edith is the echo. Now the roles invert. The crew floods the house with cables and lights moving furniture, ignoring him as if he were part of the wallpaper. He hovers sputtering about lady newscasters and men's voices fit for tragedy, trying to reclaim some fragment of relevance. No one listens. Kate Corman adjusts Edith's microphone, guiding her into the good light. Just speak naturally, she says, and Edith nods, terrified by the concept. Archie stands off camera muttering about war medals and good conduct ribbons until someone politely asks him to move out of frame. His pride collapses quietly. The scene becomes an exquisite piece of social X-ray. A husband watching his wife become visible for the first time in public, realizing that visibility is power. As the rehearsal begins, chaos reigns. The smell of burnt chicken fills the air. The cameraman wipes sweat from his forehead. Archie tries to explain that he fought in Italy and still carries shrapnel where he can't show it. The reporter, half amused, half annoyed, guides the conversation back to Edith. Tell us what you thought at that moment, she says. Edith hesitates, eyes wide, searching for words not written on any cue card. I didn't think, she finally answers. I just helped. The line is so simple that even the reporter stops writing. For a heartbeat, the entire room quiets, the lights hum, the crew lowers their microphones, and something real, unplanned, human fills the frame. Archie sees it too, though he doesn't admit it. He has spent his life believing that heroism belongs to men in uniforms, not to women with aprons. Watching Edith speak with shy honesty dismantles something inside him. The interview ends, the cameras pack up, and the living room returns to its cluttered self. But the silence afterward is different. It's the kind of silence that comes after revelation. Edith sits on the sofa, tired, radiant, unsure what she's done. Archie clears his throat, searching for words that will keep the old order intact. None come. All he can manage is a gruff, "You did good, Edith." She smiles, understanding the entire unspoken paragraph hidden inside those 3 words. The following days drift by like aftershocks. Neighbors wave, the mailman congratulates her, even the cashier at Ferguson's gives her a free loaf of bread. Archie grumbles that the attention is communist, but his voice lacks conviction. He still insists on calling himself the man of the house, yet everyone else can see that the heart of the house beats elsewhere. What he doesn't know is that Edith's moment of fame has given her something he can't take back: the quiet confidence of someone who has proven her worth, not through argument, but through action. Meanwhile, Archie's own body keeps reminding him of its limits. The scar from surgery aches, fatigue crawls up his spine. He hides it with jokes, pretending gallstones are badges of honor, but at night when the house sleeps, he sits awake, staring at the ceiling. The world outside feels louder than ever, protests on television, changing prices, new languages in the streets. He used to think the battle was against others. Now he realizes the real enemy is time. The humor of All in the Family has always been a mask for grief. Beneath every argument about bread prices or blood types lies the slow mourning of a generation watching its relevance fade. The show's brilliance lies in its refusal to console. It doesn't promise transformation or redemption, only recognition. Archie doesn't suddenly become enlightened. Edith doesn't become a feminist icon. They remain who they are, but the cracks of self-awareness widen. The audience laughs, not because they're superior, but because they see themselves aging in that same worn chair. When Beverly LaSalle reappears later to thank Archie for saving her life, the memory of the failed dinner lingers between them. Yet there's no bitterness in her voice, only gratitude. She greets Edith, first hugs Archie with gentle warmth, and leaves as gracefully as she entered. For a brief instant, he seems humbled, unsure how to react to kindness from someone he once mocked. It's a quiet redemption, not cinematic, just human. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't need to. The apology exists in the silence that follows. Life, as always, resets. Bill's pile-up politics rage on television. Joey the grandson grows another inch. But something in the household rhythm has shifted. Archie still argues about everything. The cost of gas, the softness of bread, the nonsense of women reporters. Yet his tone is softened. There's less venom, more fatigue, and once in a while, even a trace of tenderness sneaks through his sarcasm. Edith notices, but says nothing. She just pours him another cup of coffee the way she's done for 25 years and hums a hymn under her breath. The camera would end the season with that sound. The clink of a coffee spoon, the hum of an old melody, the world outside moving faster than anyone inside can follow. The theme song returns its nostalgic refrain echoing across the living room. Boy, the way Glenn Miller played. Archie joins in halfway through his baritone ruff. Edith's soprano wavering their voices, meeting somewhere in the middle. Imperfect, sincere, unguarded. The words speak of a time when girls were girls and men were men, but as they sing, both know those days are gone. The power of the moment lies in their acceptance of that loss. They sing not to bring the past back, but to survive its absence. If a camera were to linger, it would see the layers of America in that small room, the old soldier trying to hold his place in a changing world, the housewife discovering her own quiet authority, the ghosts of factories and front porches and church hymns fading into the hum of a television set. The laughter track would fade too, leaving only the real sound of breathing, uneven humans stubbornly alive. These episodes taken together are less a sitcom than a requiem disguised as comedy. They chronicle the death of certainty, the birth of humility, the uneasy grace of survival. Archie's hospital bed, Edith's CPR, Beverly's poise, the TV lights in their living room, each becomes a symbol of confrontation between the past and the present. The show refuses to decide who wins. Instead, it lets both coexist awkwardly beautifully like two voices harmonizing out of tune. In the end, All in the Family reminds its audience that progress doesn't arrive through revolution, but through small embarrassments, accidental mercies, and reluctant empathy. Archie Bunker will never change entirely, but each time he faces a nurse who ignores his prejudice, a man on a ledge who mirrors his despair, or a wife who saves a stranger with her bare hands, another layer of his armor dissolves. The miracle is not that he becomes enlightened, it's that he keeps living among people who love him enough to keep teaching. The final image could be simple. Archie asleep in his chair, the TV still glowing with the late-night news. Edith turns off the lamp, glances at him with a smile that contains every argument they've ever had, and whispers, "Good night, Archie." The camera pulls back slowly, showing the smallness of their home, the ordinariness of their lives, and the quiet heroism hidden in both. Outside, the city hums. Inside, two flawed souls keep singing their old song against the noise of the future. And that is the genius of these episodes, not in their jokes, but in their refusal to let comedy forget the heart beating underneath. Each line, each quarrel, each absurd misunderstanding becomes a hymn to survival, to forgiveness, to the strange, unbreakable tenderness that binds people who will never fully understand each other. The bunkers endure, and through them, so does America, messy, divided, sentimental, but still reaching clumsily, awkwardly, beautifully for grace.